Okay, welcome back to part 2 of trying to figure out when my Swiss Army knife was made. So now we're starting to get into the tool evolution part of things, and I've got several different tools laid out here. I don't have examples of everything, just kind of get it going. So from 1952 till a question mark, literally, and then a question mark to 1975, the square screwdriver kind of goes from a square screwdriver file with no can key to no file with no can key type scenario. So introduced in 1952, you have the square Phillips on the back scale, but it does have a file there. Now this one does not have a can key, so this would put it from 52 to the first question mark time frame. So the next line change or evolution of this is a square screwdriver with no file and no can key. I do not have an example of that. So this is the first type, the square screwdriver, file, and no can key. Okay, so I do not have an example of the second style, which is square, no file, no can key. However, from 1975 to 1986, it was a square screwdriver with no file and included a can key. I do have an example of that. So again, square screwdriver, no file, and then you do have your can key. You can kind of see it there. Okay, so that was there again from 1975 to 1986, and then from 1986 to 1992 you had a round screwdriver, but it included the can key. I do not have an example of that. 1992 until current, you have a round Phillips with no can key, which is probably what most of us have seen. So hopefully that kind of helps you with that. Now going with your inline Phillips. On your inline Phillips, and I'm turning a reference page here, inline Phillips was developed in 1973, and it's the longer one. Now it's listed as 1973 to now, so that will be the longer one, inline Phillips. And then in 2002 it evolved into the shorter version. Now it is not much shorter, but it is shorter. And I'm going to demonstrate that to the best of my ability here by putting them scale to scale, so you can see how much shorter that is. Now the notes from the 91mm tool evolution state that the Phillips screwdriver version 1 combined with the magnifying glass, while Phillips screwdriver version 2 combines with an LED light. And this is our Swiss Spirit that we just looked at a few weeks ago, and it does not have an LED light on it. So obviously that tool evolution happened and continues on models without the LED light. With that, looking at magnifying glasses, in 1973, you get an 8 times magnifier with a gray surround. And then in 2004, that tool evolved into the 5 time magnifier with a clear surround. So if you have the gray surround, it's a 1973 till approximately 2004. As the clear, it's 2004 to current. Okay. As we talked earlier, with alls, turn back to the all page. With the all, pre-1961, looks like that. And then from 1961 until 1985, looks like that. So it's a different style, and it does have the sharpened edge. And this isn't as sharp as it used to be, but it is a sharpened edge, you can see there. Then in 1985, that tool evolved to include a sewing eye. Okay. Now to look at our next evolution, we'll look at fish scalers. So from 1952 until around 1975, this had a fish scaler with a magnetic tip. So as you can see, this is a fish scaler, no scale, but the magnetism's gone out of this tip. But I know this is an older style because of the bell and the other tool set. So from 1952 to 1975, fish scaler with magnetic tip with no ruler. And by ruler, this is what I'm talking about. I don't know if I can get a glare off of it. You get the glare off of it. You can kind of see the ruler. So from 1975 till 1985, 1986 time frame, you get the next evolution, which has the ruler built into it, and this one is magnified. Let's see if I can get it to show. Okay, so that one's still magnified. Then the next evolution is in 1985, 1986 to current. You still have the scaler and hook disgouger. Does still have the scale on it, or the ruler on it, I should say, but they dropped the magnetic tip. Of course, this one's gonna magnetize itself. So anywho, that's the tool evolution for that. So stand by. Okay, continuing down the rabbit hole. If you look at your small blades on your knives, up until 1973, you had a clip point blade. I kind of mentioned that before, but that's what a clip point blade looks like. And then in 1973, we switched to the spear point blade that we're more familiar with today. Okay, the next tool set I want to look at is the metal file. And so with the metal file, 1952 to 1975, you had this style. So again, just a metal file, 1952 to 1975. Then around 1975, they added a nail cleaner to that. So you'll see the shape of the file change. This is your nail cleaner here. hold both of these at the same time. You see the change there. And then around 1990, they basically just ground the file. So it's still, I believe, a two-way grind or whatever they call it. But the main difference between the 75 to 90 file is the after 90 file comes further back onto the Tang. I don't exactly have an example of that, and I'll explain here in just a moment so you can see how much further back on the Tang that file comes, or that file cut. Okay, it also looks like it's a little different shape, which I've still kind of cross-cut. And then that lasted from 1990 to 2005, and then in 2005, metal file stainless grounded. I think this is a stainless grounded file, just because it's a little shinier and doesn't seem to be aging like these are. It's not getting the patina on it. Alrighty, stay tuned and we'll look at some scissors. Okay, we're back with scissors. So from 1902 to 1975, the scissors had a single joint and a single spring and a screw joint. So that's what we see here. This is a pre-68 Champ A. And you can see that single spring, and you do have the screw joint. These are a little worn out. And there's several different variations. Like at some point they went from the blued spring to the stainless spring. So you'll have small variations in between like that. You'll have differences in the shapes of the handles through the transition years. So again, 1902 to 1975, single spring with a screw joint. From 1975 till about 1992, you get a screw joint with a double spring. And then there is something to do with a lap joint, 5mm lap joint, but I don't understand exactly what they're talking about. I've tried to find some pictures and examples, but I haven't found it. And then you'll also notice there's no guiding groove in the handle, and I'll explain why I think that's important here in a minute. So then in 1992, the scissors get an upgrade. They go from the screw to a rivet, and you do retain the double spring, but you get the guiding groove. So I would say 92 to 2000, you have the guiding groove in the handle, double loop spring, or the double spring, and then your rivet. Again, take a look at that rivet, because there will be a distinguishing difference between that one and the 2020. So the 2020 has all the stuff we've already mentioned of the 92s. So you have a riveted, instead of a screw, you've got the guiding groove in the handle. But I don't know if you can see, but the rivet's a little more gold. So I'm sure that's some kind of chain. So I'm going to say maybe 2000-ish is when that occurred. Alright, so I know that's a bunch of information and none of it is set in stone, but just kind of a tool evolution to help you date your Swiss Army knife. And then here's a cool little thing I'll show you. This is a long nail file on the back scale. If you see that, with the exception of a very few newer knives, if you see that on any knife, that is definitely an older knife. That was started in 1942 on some of the models, and it says it runs up through 2000 according to the SAC Wiki page. But how many Swiss Army knives up to 2000 if you've seen that on. So I think there was a couple of special editions that had that on it. And then again, like we said with the hook is a 91 edition, and then in 98 it got kind of a nail file to it. So alrighty, appreciate your time. Hope you're enjoying. Stay tuned. We're about to go down the rabbit hole of Tinker versus Spartan.